Excellent.
Okay, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is MiSTer running on a Galaga Generation 1 one-up cabinet. I haven't seen many mods on this. I don't even think Retro Ralph has done one on this, which is completely shocking. But it's not that difficult. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you how to set up some menu orientation and some controls. But keep in mind, this is a proof of concept, so you won't see me have the MiSTer mounted. You won't see additional menu buttons. If you know the MiSTer, the menu options and the UI is a little bit tricky and not user-friendly. But here's what I did with the control panel. I added a pac-man 4-way joystick. I added half buttons. I added a select button right there where the black button is. You don't technically need a select button. There's a workaround for it, but it's just easier if you have a select button. That on-off button is actually for when I put a Pi in there. It's not for the MiSTer. There is a way to get a power button for the MiSTer, and if I was going to do this fully, I would have mounted that power button and somehow made access to that easily. I'll leave a video in the description of a gentleman who shows how to add a power button to your MiSTer. Now, as for volume, the volume is controlled by the amp where the speaker will plug into. There is no volume control on the control panel. Underneath the control panel is simply an easy get zero delay encoder. I tried 2 easy gets, they both worked. I'm using Cherry micro switches on here. I started with some zippies, but they should be called crappies instead of zippies because they didn't work very well. And as for the volume, those wires right there just plug right into the back of your amplifier and you will get sound via a 3.5 millimeter jack to the I/O board. Now the one-up Galagas only move left and right, so you have to cut a hole for the joystick. I also had to route out some of the control panel because pac-man joysticks are meant for a metal control panel, and the joystick will sit too low if you don't get an extended shaft or route out the control panel. Now, if you look inside, I didn't mount the MiSTer as I said, but if I was going to, I would have put a shelf right in there. I would have mounted the MiSTer right there. I would have put the amp in there as well to control the volume easily, and I would have made a lifting control panel on a hinge so I could have just lifted it up to access my MiSTer or the volume. Now let's put the control panel back on and take a look at the back. On the back, you're going to notice it's very similar to the original ETA Prime mod. You just got to make sure you get the right LCD controller board that matches your monitor, and you're going to follow his instructions pretty much the same way. You'll see I have HDMI leading out to the MiSTer. That's the power to the LCD controller board right there. As I said, 3.5 millimeter to the MiSTer board from the amp, and then basically all you have is your power to the MiSTer as well. Then just add a multi-outlet adapter there, and we're all set. Okay, so here we are at the one-up, and remember that this is kind of like putting a Mustang engine in a Pinto. The MiSTer just might not belong in here, but this started to grow on me as I was playing with it. So let's take a look right away. We'll go into Galaga and take a look at that. I'll show you some settings, some control settings, and some other stuff as well in here. But first, let's take a look at a game that's just working. Okay, so I can hit my credit button and start, and here we go. And you guys know MiSTer. This is MiSTer. This is where it's at, right here. The hardware emulation is fantastic. And even on this arcade, it's just so much fun to play, actually. Good joystick, good buttons, good micro switches. This is the way to do it. So now let's take a look at a game that needs the setup menu changed in order to get it working on the vertical screen. So again, over here is my MiSTer. I'm just going to click the menu button on the I/O board. I'm going to scroll over to Core. I'm going to go down to Galaxian. And this is what it looks like before you set it up. Obviously, it's coming out sideways because I'm on a vertical screen. If you already have a 16:9 wide screen, then you don't have to do any of this setup. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the menu button again. And you only have to do this once. You don't have to do it every time. We're going to go down. We're going to change the orientation to vert. You can see we still have some black bars at the top here. We're going to go up. We're going to change the aspect ratio to wide. And now it fills the screen perfectly. I'm going to go down to dip switches too, and again, if you can change to free play, then you don't need the coin button that I put up here. Not all games have this free play option, but there is an alternate settings where you can make the start button a credit and a start at the same time, so then you really don't need a coin button. That's a little tricky setup. We're not going to get into that today. So we're going to reset to apply. For this one, we did put it on free play, so all I have to do is hit the one player start, and off we go. So, as you can see, Galaxian working fine, the joysticks work fine. Let's take a look at one more, and then I'm going to go over some control settings and explain a couple of games that I had a little bit of an issue with setting up so you can see it. We're going to have to try Pac-Man. And again, Pac-Man coming out sideways because I haven't set it yet. Go over here, vert, wide, dip switches already on free play, reset to apply. Let it load up, and then go down to save settings as well. That'll save the settings for the aspect ratio and the orientation. That'll save the settings there. Exit the game. It's on free play. You can hit 2-player, and now you get 2 players up here. But if you haven't played Pac-Man on MiSTer, boy, you're missing out, man. This, I know it doesn't seem like, oh, how different can it be? Trust me, it just feels different. Everything feels so much better. Sound, everything. Reaction time. It's just incredible, actually, how good the emulation is. Now, I want to get into one setting here in case you have joystick problems. You can always go to your menu. You can scroll over to Define Pac-Man Buttons. And you can go into here, right, left, down, up, fire, 1-player, 2-player, and then coin over here. You use your keyboard if you want to skip anything like the cheat. I'd have to plug my keyboard in right now to finish, and then you can just clear that up and do that. Now, I will say on a game like Burger Time, I had an issue with left and right being up and down, and that was because it didn't understand the horizontal turn. I'm not sure how many games that happens with. There is a workaround for it, I'm sure, but for now, just know that I couldn't get every single game joysticks to just default work for left, right, up, and down. But other than that, guys, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching The Rexer Show.